afternoon, and I'm tired today. So, news came down the pipeline about the new Nintendo Switch after months and months, I'm assuming. Almost, let me guess. I think it's been actually almost a year or two now since the rumors were circulating of a new Switch model being produced. And finally, the people at Nintendo have finally graced us with the trailer that just acknowledges what we all kind of knew, and that is that they are working on it, and they've actually given us a release date. So, Justin, do you play a Switch?
No.
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 How dare you?
I only have a Wii and a DS. Technically two DSs.
Oh my goodness, this man is living in like.
Bro, the moment I started to really get into PC gaming was the moment I stayed with PC gaming. Right? I even like.
Oh no.
Xbox 360. I'm pretty sure I only have like a PlayStation 2 and that's it. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a PC elitist in the room.
Hey, I'm not an elitist. I'm fine with console. I for one do love console.
That's what all the elitists say.
Well, it brings back lovely memories, like good times of getting people together and playing games. Like you actually had to get together in the olden days of console, like
olden days.
The olden days.
Let's not make ourselves sound that old, eh?
Well, I mean, I'm not that old, but we're close.
We're close. Well, man.
Yes.
Be sitting here talking about the Switch with one of us not knowing what a Switch even looks like. Okay, whatever.
Hey, I know what a Switch looks like. I know how it functions. I just don't have one.
It's one of those box things, right? You put those in the TV.
It's a TV thing with two little remotes that go pew pew.
Pew pew.
Sending rays of information back and forth. Doesn't vibrate like the original Xbox though, but alright.
Need my vibration function. I need to vibrate my hand. Anyways, yes, the latest in the news cycle is that the Nintendo Switch. What is the official word of this thing? The Nintendo Switch Pro, I think it's called?
Might be.
Hold on, let me just.
A lot of the time they go and rename things as like XL, Pro, like trying to make it sound big.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're not even calling it Pro. They're calling it the Nintendo Switch OLED console. Well, isn't that a mouthful?
OLED, yes.
OLED. Now, fun question, Justin. Do you know what OLED is?
I know what an LED is, but I don't know what the I don't know what the O would be for this.
So no, then. Okay, then. Well, well, don't be too sad. A lot of people don't because
I'm depression.
Depression kicks in. OLED, for those who do not know, let us just get the technical term, and I quote, organic light emitting diode. Fun words. So what exactly does that mean? Good question. Basically, and if I'm pulling this from the article, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm quoting this from the article, full disclosure, I am not one of those TV junkies that just has all the technological specs on top of that. I'd like to be. Well, actually, do I want to be? I don't know. One that an OLED TV is also a teeny tiny LED light, but one that is incredibly thin and can produce both light and color in a single element. Ooh, fun. In other words, OLED TVs do not need a backlight, and for those who are too young to know, which is basically, I think, every one of us in the room, a backlight was basically the thing you placed behind the TV, or should I say, it was placed behind the actual screen itself in the TV to actually light up basically provide light to the screen.
Yeah.
So for those who are old enough to remember the original DSs that did not have backlights and were just basically black lines running across the screen.
Black and white.
Black and white, ladies and gentlemen, black and white. Those are the days we're talking about here. Anyways, they don't need a backlight. Each pixel basically produces its own light. So basically, for those who don't know, to make a long descriptional story short, an OLED is both a LED capable of both emitting color as well as lighting itself. That might sound dumb when you think about it because, wait a minute, don't LEDs produce light?
Yes.
Technically, they produce color. In the case of a TV, they more produce a, shall we say, type of color.
Yeah, well, I mean, brightness of color thus equals light.
Brightness of color, yes, thus equals light. So let's not get into too much physics, though. So basically, it's a diode that's capable of emitting both color and light, which might again sound complicated, but what this basically translates into is a diode that is much more capable of a wider range of light, or color, I should say, not light, color. There are several advantages to design, and again, quoting from the Digital Trends article, which for those who are curious, it'll be in the description. So if you want to read this all without me rambling on and going back and forth, you can look in the description.
Yes.
Basically, and I quote, "Go to the description." Anyways, there are several advantages to the design again, and I quote, "But most would agree that when it comes to OLED TVs, my tongue is twisted just saying it, the biggest advantage is this." Indeed, the superb black light that can be achieved, unlike a QLED TV, which is something we'll be getting into later, or LED TV, which, for those who aren't aware, is what most TVs are these days, or just straight LED, that must dim its backlight and block whatever remains of the dark screen. An OLED TV simply turns off the pixel. When the pixel is off, it emits no light and no color, making it as dark as when the TV itself is turned off. So basically, whenever it's trying to simulate black, it literally just turns off the pixel that has the black on it, thus simulating literal pure nothingness, if you will, instead of trying to simulate what black looks like.
Meanwhile, black paint that, yeah, you know, black. It's interesting non-color.
A side note, the fact they call black a non-color. I took painting in high school. Yes, I was one of those kids. And it always annoyed me to some degree that black is not considered a color, yet white is considered a color.
Well, I mean, it's weird.
Or is it white considered a color and it's black isn't, or vice versa?
I don't know. Because the weird thing when it comes to black and white is the fact that black is all color together, whilst white is the absence of color, which is the strange part about it all, but you know.
And yet there is such a thing as white paint.
Yes.
Just think about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a color, yet there is technically a color called white, yet they don't classify it as a color. It's like Pluto. It's a planet, yet no one acknowledges it. It's the lonely planet. The lonely planet.
Yeah,
nobody likes them.
You know, it was declassified as a planet, then reclassified as a planet due to its dwarf planet stature. You know, it just works. It just works.
It just works. Anyways, at the time of the article that I'm reading, though, only one company produced the OLED TVs, and that was LG. Clearly that has changed, however.
Yes.
Because nowadays, OLED TVs and QLEDs are just flooding the market.
So, yeah.
However, this article does say LG displays were also sold by the panel to companies like Sony, Philips, Panasonic, basically the guys who also make TVs. So, I don't know. But basically what this means, ladies and gentlemen, again, long story short, OLED TVs are basically TVs capable of much richer color, I guess, spectrums, if you will.
Yeah, it might have like a larger variety. It might be able to achieve more specific colors and whatnot.
Going back to the idea of the backlight, unlike most TVs nowadays, where if you need to simulate blackness, they just kind of turn down the black light in that certain area. It just, in the case of a QLED, just turns said pixel off, thus achieving perfect blackness, I suppose you could call it.
Yes. Black.
So.
Crimson.
That's red. That's.
Yes.
Crimson black. That seems like a contradiction.
Perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps it would be. Anyways, so basically what Nintendo is basically saying is we're making a new console and we're putting the OLED technology in this console. So your colors will be richer on this new console. So that's I think one of the biggest selling features of the new console they're aiming for is the whole idea of this QLED technology, or OLED, QLED. I don't know why, but every time I think of one, I think of the other, and I just end up confusing them.
Yeah, that is a bit confusing. It's verging on Xboxes, like, you know, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox One S.
Xbox One Series X. It's like, oh, good God. At this point, there's gonna come a day when they just need to change the name, but they just refuse to.
Most likely, yes. Most likely.
However, you're probably thinking, okay, cool. It's a console with a bigger color spectrum. So what? Well, you're right. So what? However, that's not the only selling point of this new console. Going back to another article we'll actually have in the description below, from Nintendo Life this time, Nintendo Switch OLED screen isn't the only selling point this thing has. According to this, it has a larger screen. In fact, this one is 7 inches. Why is that important? Well, the standard Switch that they have out now is actually 6.2 inches, with a resolution of 1280 to 720. Now, if you're thinking, oh wait, does that mean the resolution is the same? Well, no. Sadly, we're going to be stuck with still the same resolution of 1280 to 720. So, don't
expect too much.
Don't get your hopes up. It's just a bigger screen. Which, on a side note, isn't too bad in a way, because you have some games that are literally, you have to basically drag your finger around to control some of these things. So a larger screen, especially if you're people with, shall we say, bulkier fingers, is much easier and much easier to handle, I'd imagine, because you have more space to work with.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about, pressing 6 buttons at once.
So, OLED technology in this new Switch will basically allow for much richer color, and because they're making it slightly bulkier, it will be, well, slightly bulkier. But that's apparently not all their selling point is. This new one apparently has much larger storage, or larger storage in general. If I can just find the exact number here, I will tell you. Forgive me, I'm bouncing back and forth between articles, ladies and gentlemen, so I can't give you the exact number immediately.
Master of all worlds.
Master of clicking on a button, scrolling to find the exact number. No, this article might be on. Oh, very professional this is. Bouncing back and forth, dead air. Ah, yes. This new handheld will have 64 gigabytes of storage for the games.
Oh, there you go. You can get a lot more games downloaded on there. Be able to enjoy more things.
Indeed, because if memory serves, one of the original gripes with the first Switch is that its memory actually wasn't too big. In fact, let me just look up how big it was right now.
That is one thing when it came to the people I did know when they played the Switch, is the fact that there were some very intensive games that required a lot of storage that they just don't have enough space for.
According to this, the Nintendo Switch, the base model, only had 32 gigabytes, so basically that's an increase. I'm not doing the math on the top of my head for fear of getting it wrong. So anyways, you've got a more brightly colored screen that's more vibrant colors with a bigger screen that has bigger memory. That's basically the selling points of the new console. Which is quite interesting when you think about it, because the rumors were, apparently, that this new Switch model, and again, going back to the rumors before the new Switch was apparently released, again, the new OLED, which was released, the idea was that it was going to be a much higher graphical power Switch. So, I don't know, would this count as a graphical increase, would you say? I mean, technically it's a color increase, most certainly.
Possibly. I mean, it depends on it, really, because at the end of the day, I mean, sure, you could add more colors, but no matter what, we can only visibly see so much color, so we're not really changing the spectrum here.
Well, I mean, at that point, you're just gonna have to replace your eye. It's gonna become like Cyberpunk, and I think it's a long time before I replace my
you just create games where you can see X-ray and gamma vision and stuff like that, and you just run eye.
Yeah, and if you look gamma vision, you look at the Hulk, he glows in the dark. So that's the interesting bits of the new Switch, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're going back to the idea of, so the whole question you're probably asking, or you will probably be asking if you're considering buying this, is, should I buy this? Well, again, this Switch does have a larger memory pool than your original model, which is 32 again, compared to the 64 they have now. So that's double, basically. Yeah, that is literally double what the last memory was.
Yeah, a lot more capability on that one.
And will it have any better resolution, though? Will you actually have any more higher resolution? Are you going to get 4K on this thing? Sadly, no. We're not going to get 4K on the Switch. It looks like any time in the foreseeable future.
No PC action here.
No PC action here, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
However, you will be getting a lot more vibrant colors, again going back to the OLED technology, because this is lit on an individual pixel basis, as we previously discussed. So, is this classified as a graphical upgrade? I guess it depends on your tastes.
Yeah.
I would say in the most orthodox, or orthodox definition of a graphical increase, no, it really isn't much of a graphical increase. It's basically the same thing with brighter colors, essentially. So, I mean, get it if you're interested in a much more... I'm sure this will open the door to much more vibrant-looking games.
Yeah, like, you'll be able to get some more finer details with some of the coloring, but it depends. It really depends on what you're wanting out of it. I mean, the biggest thing when it comes to the Switch there would most likely be any, like, performance-based fixes and increases, allowing it, you know, to be able to handle games at more higher resolution and whatnot, as well as the storage itself will be a very big boost.
And if you're like me, who's slightly colorblind, forget it.
No,
it ain't gonna benefit
color
us.
doesn't matter.
It's not gonna benefit us at all. It's not gonna benefit my people at all, so I'm sorry. So you're probably... And if you're probably listening to this, you're going, hold on, OLED, I've heard that term before. Probably right beside the word QLED. You're right, because a lot of people who are buying TVs nowadays like to compare OLED to QLED because they're basically different types of technology.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the type of pixel they're using. So, Justin, do you know what a QLED is?
What do you think?
I could ask.
No need to ask there. Information is required.
Information is required. Okay, then. Let us go back to, again, one of the articles, the one from Digital Trends that'll be in the description, which has the idea of what a QLED is. Now, for those who don't know what a QLED is, again, going back to, I'm assuming most of us, because QLED, OLED, it's all new. Basically stands for Quantum Light Emitting Diode. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck does that even mean? You're right. What the heck does that even mean?
Why?
And I'm not even kidding you. In the literal article itself, it literally describes it as basically just like a regular LED TV, except it uses tiny nanopixels called quantum dots. So basically, marketing speak. To supercharge its brightness. It's basically just marketing speak, ladies and gentlemen. To supercharge its brightness and color. Basically, the technology was, according to this article, introduced by Sony in 2013, but shortly after that, Samsung began selling its QLED TVs and established a licensing partnership with other manufacturers. Again, this is all quoted from the article. Which also now finds QLED TVs from Sony, Vizio, Hansen, I think I butchered that, I'm sorry, and TCL. So how does quantum dot work? Deep dive into technology.
Let's do some deep dives. Come on.
Let's do some deep dives. You're probably here for what exactly is a deep dive? What is a quantum dot? Well, again, that'll have to basically go into a whole explanation on how LCD TVs work and QLED TVs work and blah 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 blah. But basically, the short form is that basically what this is, they are tiny phosphorescent crystals that glow when you shine light on them. They can glow in any array of colors, so very wide variety here. Which color they glow is determined by their size. So basically, the size of the crystal determines the size of the color they produce when shined light through. Since the size of a quantum dot can be precisely controlled based on how many atoms are in it, again, all very practical, or all very technical talk, I mean.
Yes.
They are smaller than a virus, and that's, again, the words from one of the links from the article you can follow, again, linked in the description.
So in other words, it's basically taking the idea of quantum computing and putting it on, like, a display case, basically.
I suppose you could say that in a way. But quantum computing is more referencing the speed than the actual,
like, looks.
Yeah, looks, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess you can go and get some interesting sized crystals over time, judging on what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And since these quantum dots, again, can be controlled on their size, it'll vary on the color. So, you're probably wondering what's the newer one here. You might be wondering what's the newer one, OLED or QLED? As far as we can tell, OLED is newer on the market. That seems to be the newer concept here. And again, OLED is much easier to basically describe. It's basically just an entire TV that has individually controllable pixels on the screen. So instead of having pixels that are just backlit and just shine their colors and they change their colors more broad stroking, or should I say they kind of broad stroke change their colors, OLEDs can basically individually change their colors pixel by pixel. And for those, again, simulating black, they just turn the pixel off completely, which is quite clever. Whereas QLEDs have to do with crystals and individual controllable crystals, and
the sizes
I would
they
recommend
have, which that alone is probably slightly going to be complicated.
It is a complicated explanation to some degree. So if you're interested in what QLEDs are, I would recommend you look into it. It is a little bit of physics involved. So for the physics nuts in the room, I would recommend you look into that like me. It's actually quite interesting. But back to the idea of the Switch. So what does this have to do with the Switch? Well, in terms of QLEDs, nothing. It's just an explanation as to what exactly a QLED is in very, very simplified terms, and I'm honestly not too sure I got all of it right, in truth. But at the end of the day, we've got a new Switch on the market, and you're probably wondering at this point, I'm saying that a lot this stream,
is
it worth it? Well, again, that goes back to the idea of if you designate the idea of more vibrant looking colors as a graphical improvement.
Yes. Is it? Are you a display junkie who loves the details of their video games, or are you a performance junkie?
I wouldn't say screen junkie, but eh. So when is this console coming out? Well, according to Nintendo, it's actually coming out October 8th. And to my knowledge, actually, it's not available for pre-order just yet, which, side note, is actually slightly better than what Sony and Xbox did with their console releases for the next gen as of recently, where they were basically like, a new console's coming out tomorrow and it's available right now. And, well, basically the expected happened by everyone in the room, and bots bought them all up in 6 seconds.
Yeah. Why not? Come on, guys. Get with the times. Bots are just gonna take everything from us.
Our jobs, our homes, our video game consoles. It's a damn mess.
Our lobbies.
Our lobbies. They're even playing against me in games now. It's terrible.
I didn't ask for display mode. I asked for torture mode.
So, what do you think, Justin? You think this will be swooped up quickly the second it comes on pre-order, or do you think it'll
likely like PlayStation? There's a chance. It depends on how Nintendo has their system set up online for pre-ordering, as well as ordering. But there's a chance. There's a chance. I mean, PlayStation didn't have a good thing set up for their website, so there's that. But Nintendo's kind of always had a good grasp on catching bots before they come running around.
Nintendo's always done its own thing, so we'll see how this pans out at the end of the day, I suppose.
Yeah, they might have something set up.
Maybe, maybe not. I personally think it might be a tad better than what Xbox and Sony's rollout of the Series X, or whatever the heck Xbox is calling their new consoles now. I've given up on keeping track, honestly. And the PS5's rollout were from Sony, because, again, in this case, Nintendo is giving us a preordained date somewhere in the not so distant future, but enough in the future where it's not, like tomorrow. And it's not available for pre-order right now. So we're basically just gearing up for the day it's ready. So at least they're giving us foreknotice, which again is much better than what Sony and Xbox did, where they basically gave us the release date literally the day before it was supposed to come out. Or at least the day before it came on pre-order, so yeah, that didn't end well. So if you didn't constantly have basically a thumb on the pulse of the gaming industry, you lost out on a chance to buy your consoles, which is unfortunately very, tragic for anyone who suffers from that, I'm afraid.
Well, hopefully people will be able to enjoy it because I mean, at the end of the day, always treat it like this. Do you want your game to run nice or do you want it to look nice? Always follow that principle. Always get what you feel is right for how you want to play. So if you feel like the type of console you're getting is going to make things feel nice, go for it.
Interesting you should say that, actually, because a lot of the PS4 games that were kind of branching into the next gen as well, they have a lot of settings these days, and for those who play the consoles, you probably know what I'm talking about. Things like Neo and stuff like that. They have a performance setting, and then they have a graphical setting. So basically, you can toggle which one you want. You want the 4K, you want the high resolution and stuff like that, or do you want faster frame rates and faster load times and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So it is the kind of prioritization of what do you want.
Which helps.
So, yeah, which helps. So, final answer on the Switch. Do you want to buy it? Again, of all the consoles I've looked at in the recent years, I think this one is really a personal taste decision. Because
yeah,
again,
I mean, there are going to be some things that are going to be helpful, but the majority of it is going to be mainly like looks.
Yes, it is most certainly an upgrade over the last model. Again, the memory is most certainly an upgrade. But is it worth the hefty price tag just for some brighter colors?
Yeah, it's mostly a question on do you want to wait for the one that comes after it, because it's likely going to increase in information that can be stored on it again. So,
yeah.
Do you want to wait for the next one and get an even greater upgrade, or do you want to get this one now?
Well, I mean, it is Nintendo, so they're not exactly beholden to the schedule of every few years we'll release a new console.
Yeah.
I mean, they only stopped selling Wiis in Japan only, what, a few years back, so...
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold your breath. Again, if you're looking for... If you are purely...
There's a chance. I mean, it depends on where they want to go exactly with the Switch.
Yeah, if you're interested in getting at least a base memory improvement, I would go for it.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in just getting prettier graphics and that's all you're interested in, again, that is much more of a personal interest.
Yeah,
this is just going to give you brighter.
You're a type of person who just plays a very select few of games on the Switch, then it might not be worth it. But if you're someone who constantly has to go and uninstall, install, change what games you have, then it might be worth it.
Yeah, I would look into this if I were you then.
Yeah.
So that brings us to, oh my goodness, 12:31. We are a little bit over time actually this one.
Well, no, we started a little late. We still got 2 more minutes here.
Oh, did we? Oh.
Yes.
My.
Don't worry about it.
How's that? I wouldn't know. I didn't know you were keeping track with all the Doom Eternal you're playing.
Oh, well, I mean, 2 screens helps with that.
2 screens help with that. Yeah. I have to make sure you don't get caught by demons though somewhere in that.
Yeah. Don't let the demons come too close.
Those little imps can be a pain. But yeah, no, it is a personal decision. It is something that you'll have to, like with all consoles, I suppose you could say that, but with this one specifically.
Console, it doesn't matter what you like to use. It's always a decision of, does this work with how you want to play?
I mean, that's kind of the rule.
What you want to do, because playing a console, PC, game doesn't matter. It's based off of what you want to do.
And final word of note, again, if you're interested in looking at any of the articles I've referenced here in my my little attempt at explaining the whole concept of OLED and QLED and the kind of what the exact benefits are, there's actually something of a tech breakdown on Nintendo Life. They have something of a kind of a breakdown of what you get out of the new console. Again, these will all be linked in the description, so if you're interested in following up on those, again, for the QLED specifically, if you want to learn about that, I would recommend looking at those articles. They can be quite hard to explain at times.
Yeah, they can go into a fair amount of detail sometimes.
Quantum dot technology is half marketing speak and half quantum physics, so
don't worry about it too much.
Don't worry about it too much if you don't get it. I'm sure half the world doesn't either. So yeah, I think we'll call it here maybe.
Yeah, I think we got enough console information out there for people to enjoy their possible new Nintendo Switch that comes out. So hopefully you do enjoy this, and do like and subscribe if you'd like to keep up to date.
And if you're looking at this new console, again, it comes out on October 8th. So mark your calendars if you're interested. And keep an eye on those pre-orders because the bots will be dangerous.
Keep up to date on when it's gonna come out and be released, and you know, all that information. Because yeah, if you do want to get it on time, you're gonna need to really pay attention.
Side note before we go though, I've been monitoring the Xbox, the kind of Xbox pre-orders, right? And as far as I am, because we're in Canada, right? I think I can at least reveal that.
Oh, we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
We're not American or British or, you know, German or Russian, so we're fine.
Anyways, there has not been a Series X, which is the disc version, in Canada, in anywhere, as far as I can tell, for at least the last several months. So, if you're interested in getting this console, again, be vigilant. That is all. That is my word of advice for someone who does this.
Very timely. Watch when it comes out and be ready and get it as fast as you can.
Yeah, we cannot stress that enough here at the Midweek Report. But anyways, we'll let y'all go. This is Nick. You're gonna sign off. You already did your sign off. And remember, in the words of the immortal Red Green, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together. Good night.